Welcome to month 5 of the Hyperion block of the month. Today we get to create the square in a square units and the geese for the inner border of the quilt, and then we'll be attaching it to the large geese border that we've already got assembled. So go ahead, get your pieces cut, and let's get started.
So here are my cut pieces for month 5. It looks like this month we get to sew the rainbow. Aren't those so pretty? So we are going to start with the square in a square units. They're going to go in the center of this border. So I'm going to grab one A square and then 2 J squares. We are going to cut those J squares in half diagonally from corner to corner. And then what we're going to do is we are going to, and you can finger press this if you like, in half to center it, but these triangles are slightly oversized, so I just generally center it with my eye. So I'm going to center one on the right side and then one on the left side. We're going to sew both of those seams and then we'll press. So here's my unit with those J triangles on either side of my A square. We don't need these little ends here, so I'm going to just trim those off, and we don't want that extra bulk in our seam, so we're going to trim those off even with the edges of our A squares. And then what we're going to do is we're going to, again, you can press this in half, finger press it in half if you want to find the center. I am just going to use my eye, center that on this side, and then our other J on the left side. So we're going to sew those 2 seams, and then we'll have our square in a square unit to trim up. So here's our square in a square unit. We are going to square these little guys to 4.5 inches. I'm going to put just my dot on each corner, and that's going to be how I line it up. Now, we need 1 of these for each side of the quilt, so we're going to make 4 of these little square in a square units. So with our square in a square units done, now we get to practice our flying geese again. And I honestly, when I designed this quilt, I did not intend for this to be excellent practice for flying geese. That just seems to be the way it's turning out. So we are going to make 8 geese from each of our colors here. Our J squares, just as we've done on previous months, so I'm just going to show you on our B square. We're going to line up a J square on opposite corners. Mark the diagonal, sew down both sides, cut it apart. So here are my cut. This one is the remaining one. I went ahead and pressed this one. I sewed down both sides of that diagonal again, right? And now we are going to line this up on the corner, slightly overlapping the pretty pink polka dot. And then we are going to, again, you can mark the center if you want the center diagonal line. I tend to just eyeball it unless it's a much larger goose. So I'm going to sew down both sides of that diagonal, and then we will end up with 2 cute little geese. Like I said, we're going to make 8 of each color, and we are going to trim all of those to 2.5 by 4.5. Okay, so 2 hours later, here are my 64 geese, 8 of each color. Once you've got all those done, all we're going to do is we're going to sew them together in that exact same order. So we're going to seam these, then there's going to be 8 of them. So I am just going to sew each one of these together, and we will have, that will be unit 3, which is going to measure 4.5 by 16.5. Let me put one of those together so we can look at it. All right, here they are, our rainbow unit 3s. Like I said, we are making 8 of them. We're going to grab 2. We're going to stick what would have been unit 2B in the middle, And we are going to sew a unit 1 in between them. I know you can't see all of this, but once I get it all sewn together, I'll take it to the design board so you can see it all. So that's unit 1 in the middle, and then we are going to take 2 K rectangles. So we're going to sew these seams in the middle first, and then once that is complete, we are going to sew a K rectangle to the top and to the bottom of this unit. Okay, I tried to zoom out so you can actually see everything. I went ahead and sewed my unit 1 in between my 2 unit 3s. Because this is cut to length, normally I finger press, but I actually use the iron on this to make sure that you could actually see that crease. I'm going to line that crease up, which is the middle of my K rectangle. I'm going to line it up on the point of my square and a square, which is my unit 1. Okay, I'm then going to come to this end, and this looks like it got a little long on me. I don't know if you can see that. It's not much. It's about 1/8 of an inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin the other end in place. I know, the girl that doesn't use pins, but I use pins to make sure that these go on correctly. And then I just kind of lay that out and let it take care of itself, and then just pin it so when I go to sew it, it will all be in the right spot and it will be in the right length when we go to sew it to our quilt. And sometimes it can be a little short too. So if it is short, you kind of just stretch those geese out a little bit to make up that difference, okay? So again, going to pin this end, and then once all that looks fine, we're going to place a few pins in the middle. Okay, so here is our block 9. We are making 4 of these, and they are going to measure 6.5 tall by 36.5 long. So, and I pressed my seams out towards these little tiny borders, and now we're going to grab our block 8A and 8B. And we are going to sew our block 8A and our block 8B to the bottom of this block 9. Now, when we do that, these geese on the outside are the same, but the ones inside are not. So it is going to matter. If you want it to be consistent all the way around the quilt, you're going to want to make sure you look at the pattern and make sure that you've got them in the same position for all 4 sides. So I'm going to sew mine together. I'm going to pin it in the same manner as I did, lining up my center with the center of this star here. My pins escaped. I only found 4. But I'm going to pin in the middle, just like we did on those other ones. And then I'm going to pin my end. And then I'm just going to make the rest of this work. Make it lay as flat as possible. And I'll do that on the other end when I find a couple pins here. And then we will sew that together. And then this, because this is block 8A on the bottom here, the whole unit together is going to become block 10A. So let me go sew that together and I'll be right back. So here it is sewn together. Again, this is block 10A because this bottom one was block 8A. So 10A should measure 14.5 tall and 36 long. We are making 2 of these. And then block 10B, which uses block 8B on the bottom. And note that my triangles over here are all the same color. This is block 10B, same size, 14.5 tall, 36.5 long. And we made 2 of these as well. So 2 block 10Bs on top and 2 block 10As.
So here are my completed blocks from month 5. This is block 10A and 10B. Be sure to join me next month, month 6. We will be creating the remaining stars and log cabin corners. So be sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.